Okay,
Find it.
we are live. We are recording. Everybody went quiet.
Best behavior.
Best behavior. Well, wait, we got another minute. We'll get started. And then hi, Ashley.
Hey, hello, happy Friday.
Ashley,
Happy
how are you
Friday to
doing?
you. You got to sing the song. Do you know the song?
Which one? And I'll sing it.
Friday, Friday, Friday is my favorite day. That's the only part I know.
That is not the song I was thinking about. My son has this song from this pop artist named Rebecca Black, and it's called Friday, and it is the dumbest song in the world. Once you hear it, you will not get out of your head. I'll share it with you. I will send it to everyone so you can enjoy it as much as I don't. And every Friday morning he plays it.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, it's 8:30 according to my clock. So let's get rocking and rolling. We're going to start off by just welcoming everybody out. Thanks for being here. We have a few people that are sick. A couple of them will be on. Maria's not feeling too well. I know Techie will be on as well, but not talking. Bree is down for the count. I think Jason's at his son's wedding today, so he won't be on. So we do have a few missing, but welcome everybody. Let's start off with our, let me just pull up my screen, our culture piece, which fits very well with what we're going to talk about today. Tell me when you can see that.
Yes, we can. I can.
Okay.
We can
Ashley, since you spoke first, will you read that for us, please?
Okay. We are curious. We don't accept the status quo. We look to understand the reason why we do things and if we can do them better. We seek to understand our employees, our clients, and each other.
Good, thank you. So, I wanted to bring that one up because, it really does fit with what we're talking about today, especially, being curious about, what we're doing with our people, who they are, and we seek to understand, each other and our employees. So it's very important for us to have that curiosity and to learn a little bit more. So we're going to talk a lot about that today, and I hope that you read chapter 5. I'm telling you, this is like one of my favorite pieces out of the whole book. I was just telling Kyle a minute ago, it's one that I had flagged on my Kindle, highlighted lots of stuff, of course. If we don't get this one, what good is it to hire for talent if we're not going to even understand what talents and strengths are? So this is really an important piece for us as we talk about the third key, right? The third key. So Kyle and I will be working on this together. We're tag teaming this particular discussion, but let me just start off in this first section. There's 6 sections here. We're not going to get deep into all of them, but let me start off with this first one. Think about this. Listen, I'm going to read a couple of things and then we're going to have more discussion. Let them become more of who they already are. I love that. Let them become more of who they already are. Don't you feel like rather than somebody changing you, that you can become more of who you already are? So how do great managers release each person's potential? This is your job as a coach on how to release a person's potential, more of that potential. Let me read these 2 paragraphs, and then let's talk about this for a second. This is the very first page of this section. Focus on each person's strengths and manage around his weaknesses. Don't try to fix the weaknesses. Don't try to perfect each person. Instead, do everything you can to help each person cultivate his talents, help each person become more of who he already is. Each person is different. Each person has a unique set of talents, a unique pattern of behaviors, passions, and yearnings. Each person's pattern of talents is enduring and resistant to change. Each person, therefore, has a unique destiny. What do you think about that? What do you think about those two paragraphs? Give me some ideas, your thoughts on that. And I'll do the military volunteer system in just a second. If you've been in the military, you know what that military volunteer is. Okay. Nobody? Shantae, what are your thoughts about those two paragraphs I just read?
Yeah, I think that it's true. And I think we read in other chapters and other books that really our job as managers is to really just kind of set the expectation, define the outcome, and then let the people that we are on our team and that we hire kind of be the talents that we hired them to be. And let them shine in whatever area it is that they shine in, and make sure that they're in the right position in order to do that. And then I think that's kind of just what he's saying here is, you know, everyone has a unique style and a way of accomplishing the things that are set out before them. Not everybody, and putting your employees in a box is really, I think, from my perspective, I think it's just the manager wanting to control the situation. It's more about the manager and their need for control than it is about anything else. So.
Yeah, good. Good. Other thoughts on what these two paragraphs might mean?
I just feel that whenever employees have the opportunity to use their strengths at work, they're obviously more engaged, productive, and likely to stay at the organization. So, and that's what it is presumed here, right? And that's what Gallup's research talks about. So,
Yeah.
to me,
Anybody
it's
else?
true.
Oh, sorry. So as we dig into this, I think it's important for us to learn. I love, this is something I've enjoyed most of my career, most of my life. It really has sometimes really very little to do with my career. I love studying people. I love to learn their patterns. I can sit in a park, you know, and just watch people and watch what they do, and it fascinates me. And when I work with people, or, you know, whether it's work or, you know, other activities outside of work, I just love studying people. So, you know, as you're, and I guess as we're talking about this, I'm watching you guys closely. I'm seeing what patterns you do, but it's not something I'm doing, you know, I just do it naturally. It's one of those things. But I think that's part of the curiosity piece, right? Is, you know, watching people, learning about them, understanding them. I sit and, I mean, I'll sit and look at somebody and go, gosh, here we are in the same community, and I'm looking at this person. I wonder who they are. I wonder about them. I'll probably never see them again. And here I am thinking and looking at them and watching them with their kids or whatever. And so that curiosity should be something that we have when we're working with our people. And obviously, you know, I don't want to go up and stalk people and be weird, but you should be talking to your people and understanding, you know, who they are. So let's just kind of start off. And we did have a homework assignment from last week on your outcomes and expectations. We'll get into that in just a minute, but let's just kind of, you know, talk about this this particular section. Kyle, did you have a few things you wanted to share or ask?
Yeah, I've got a lot on this section. Just some questions around it. When it talks about great managers distrusting generalizations, what does that mean? What are these generalizations? And why do other managers rely on them? Any thoughts on that? I can give you an example. One generalization might be a manager loves to hire MBAs because they have an MBA. right? So maybe there's groups of MBAs, and an assumption is they'll be a great hire because they're an MBA. Well, what's the problem with that?
This is where you guys like raise your hand and say, "Hey, I got an answer."
I have an answer to
Shane, go ahead.
Look, education is great, and I don't downplay education whatsoever, but experience and talent, this is all about talent, right? Hiring for talent. And it's great that you have that degree. It's great that you have that. This has been obviously a subject that we have with customers all the time, especially in sales, because sometimes we'll go to customers and we have these kind of old school customers that'll expect, well, we want them to have a master's degree and we want them to have all this experience and we're going to pay them $15 an hour. And you sit back like, what? They're just stuck in this old school mentality that the school system and the university system gave them all these skills when it really didn't.
Yeah. Maria?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Kyle. Did you want to respond to that?
Oh, go ahead, Maria.
Okay, I agree with what Shane just said. I was gonna say, when I was doing my bachelor's in HR, I feel like the most I learned was getting feedback from Kyle than I was actually learning in the class. Getting the experience and talking to Kyle and having Kyle show me and teach me was way cheaper than getting my bachelor's degree. So not always having a degree means you actually know the knowledge.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the education system's kind of a box, and the real world is very nuanced and outside of the box. And so we really get our true education in the real world. And I think we discover where our strengths are because of those nuances and those little things that we need to know. Anyway, one thing I think about generalizations is for great managers, it's about the individual and not, it's about the person and not the peoples. In other words, it's about the individual and not the group. Each individual is different. They have different backgrounds, they have different experiences, they have different talents. And like Shane says, I wouldn't discourage bolting on a good education to that. I think that's helpful. I think it can bring out, it can help us discover talents. It can help us in some other ways, but by itself isn't the reason to hire a person. Just because they have a title or whatever isn't the reason to hire a person. We really ought to do the hard work and find out what we really need, and then do the hard work again and find out how to get people to align with exactly what we need talent-wise in a company.
Kyle, we have Ashley, Shantae, and then Shane all had some comments. Ashley, Labrum.
I actually think Kyle just covered what I was going to say, so.
Okay. All right, Shantae.
Oh, I was just going to answer the question he posed, why managers do that. And I think it's just because what he said, it's a lot easier sometimes to take something at face value or to make the assumption that everyone is lumped into that category. And maybe it's just a characteristic that they think those people embody just from been in that class of people. Maybe he thinks that everyone that has an MBA is someone that seeks knowledge, or that says that they are someone that likes to learn. Not necessarily the case. A lot of people go to school for other reasons, or, just slide by and they're not really studious and maybe they're cheating their way through a college degree. That's not a good determination of what that person's character is.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's important not to make generalizations about any group of people.
Correct. Shane?
I have two things on that. How many people actually go into the field that they got their degree in? Very minimal. There's not a lot, right? And again, I'm not downplaying that at all. And then the other thing I look at my wife, And the organization that she works for, she's been there for 12 years. And they come to her and said, hey, we want to give you a promotion. We want to get you this next level, but you're going to have a degree. And so you're going to have to go to school to get there. And that's ridiculous. That because what she's doing doesn't justify a degree, right? It's not nursing. It's not that. So I'm not, again, downplaying any of that, but it's really interesting when you have organizations that are like, oh, well, if you want to get there, you can work as hard as you want, but if you didn't go to school and you didn't get that degree, we're just not going to hire you. So what is she doing? She's looking at other organizations, Northrop Grumman, Parker Hannifin, looking at these other companies that are like, look, we'll hire you for talent. We'll bring you in and we'll pay you, $50,000 more a year for your talent because you have 12 years of experience that we're looking for.
Yeah. Ashley Labrum.
In that same vein, when I was stepping in as the operations manager for a moving company, one of the requirements was to have a Class A CDL. And you guys haven't ridden with me, but like Mariah has, it's horrific. You don't want me behind the wheel of a large truck. And so it ended up being this point of contention of like, you have to get this CDL, which was unfortunate because it didn't have any effect on my ability to be a good operations manager. And my team rallied around me and they actually ended up taking that requirement away so that I didn't lose the position. But had they held that requirement, my team would have lost out as well. And anyone who was on the road while I was driving the truck. So it was better not to even have that restriction,
Yeah. I agree. And I think as we look at this, really important for us, I want you to think about the people that you lead, that you coach, and what it is. Learning about their talents and their strengths, is that easier than just saying, hey, you need a bachelor's or a master's degree? Yeah, I mean, it is difficult to sit and go through this. It takes more work, but man, the rewards are tremendous. The rewards are tremendous. Let me just read one other thing from the book and then we'll ask another question. One of the signs of a great manager, okay, this is you, is the ability to describe in detail the unique talents of each of his or her people, what drives each one, how each one thinks, and how each one builds relationships. Do you know that from your people? Do you know that about them? Have you had this kind of discussion with them deeper? Now, I'm not saying you have or haven't. I'm just saying, do you need more work? When I ask people, and I've done this many times in interviews and when we bring people on, I'll say, can you tell me what your talents and your strengths are? Not your experience, not your skill, but your talent and your strengths. And it's not easy to answer that question for most people because they haven't thought about it much. Well, if they haven't thought about it, how are you going to get it? So, I mean, this is a hard thing. So, Kyle, did you have another question on this particular chapter or section?
Yeah, just a takeoff of that too is one of the signs that we have found these strengths is in the placement of the person. And if they are thriving, their productivity is high, they're enjoying what they're doing. And people tend to enjoy what they're competent at. That's just something we keep finding in the HR community is people are motivated by their own competence. And so when they can do stuff, they're showing up to work. They're excited about what they're doing. I think that's really the sign that you've nailed it with a person. If they're not that, then it's probably about time to really do a good inventory together and figure out that piece.
Yeah, just to kind of finalize this particular section, for great managers, then the most interesting and the most powerful differences are among people, not peoples. Okay, this goes back to what Kyle was talking about earlier. So hiring, a whole bunch of people or peoples that have, degrees, MBAs or whatever. This is about knowing the differences among people, So you have a group of people that you're working with, and in order to design the plays, remember when we talk about outcomes, we're designing the plays around the player. But if you don't know the player, it's hard to design the plays. It's hard to design the outcomes around that person's talents and strengths. So it's really important that we get this. This is, I can't tell you this just how valuable this message is. Okay, so let's go into tells of transformation. I think that we talk about the word transformation a lot. I love the word transformation. Comparing it to transactional. Transactional is what Kyle just mentioned. You know, you just hire everybody that's got an MBA. Transformation is completely different. Transactional is, hey, we've got some people, we'll send them over to you, you give us money. Or transformation is, let's talk about, you know, how to take the talent that we're going to send to you to be able to really help your business grow and transform that business, to transform your productivity. That's a totally different thing than just, hey, we've got some people, can you send us some money? We'll send the people over to you. So understanding transformation, and this is what we're talking about when we talk about, you know, working with our people and their talents and their strengths. It's transformational, not just for you, but for them, because now they start to understand, again, not my skill that I learned, not my past experience, but what are my true talents and strengths? And how can we capitalize on that and make them bring out more of who they already are? I just love that statement. Let me just start off on this one. The person you feel yourself to be every day is not the real you. No, the real you is deep inside, hidden by your fears and discouragements. If you could free yourself of these fears, if you could truly believe in yourself, then the real you would be released and your potential would burst out and the giant would awaken. Have we awakened the giant? Have we awakened the giant in you? And have you awakened the giant in your people? My guess is we still have some work to do, which is okay. We still have some work to do. Kyle, did you have something on this particular section on transformation?
I love what you're saying there. And yes, I think we do have work to do. The questions I've kind of laid out for this section really try to explore the other side is, why do managers try to go in and fix people? Why do we get this wrong all the time? It basically is the question. Why do we try to go in and fix people? Why pull out the big hammer and try to smash that square peg in a round hole? Any thoughts?
What do you guys think?
That? Go ahead,
Joe, did you?
Arturo.
Okay, Arturo, sorry. Yeah, go.
I think one of the reasons why managers always try to fix and guide people in one way is because mostly of the experience of the manager, they believe that it's possible to accomplish certain tasks in a certain time. But something that these books tell us is each person is different. Each person is an exception. Each person has a unique quality, and each person should be treated for their unique quality, and we shouldn't pursue them on trying or having them do something different. They are wired to do something, and we have to help them with their talent. So
yeah, Joe, did you have a comment? You were your mic came off and then, or came on and then back off.
I want to agree with Arturo on this. It's I just think it's a temptation. If you ask, 10 managers, I would almost say all 10 of them would say, if you ask this question, who do you spend most of your time with, your highest performers or your lowest performers? And I would say that they would almost every single one of them say, I spend all my time trying to help my lowest performers. And it's a big temptation because you look at this and you say, it's a big challenge, right? There's difficulties. They need help. And that's, we're going to get into that with, chapter, or with the next chapter, I think chapter 6. But what's really interesting is that it's just natural to want to go in and help someone with what they're not succeeding at. I think it's so natural to do that. And yet we're not asking the better question. And the better question is what is this person really good at? And how do we help them do that as much as possible? And I think that kind of goes into our core values of, right seats in the bus, and these types of aspects. But it's just so natural for a manager to want to gravitate towards, trying to shore up the parts that aren't working perfect instead of trying to focus on the strengths. After you guys.
Yeah. So Arturo, did you have your hand up for another one, or did I?
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
Ashley.
I think it's pretty ingrained in us too. I mean, if you think back to when you were a child and your parents saying like, hey, I know you failed at that, but like, keep trying, you'll get there. Or how many times do you tell your kids, like, I know you want to quit, but if you just keep going, you can work past this. And I think that like need to help people grow into what you personally project onto them is so ingrained from the time you're very small. And especially if you're a parent, you're having to catch yourself all the time, like projecting that onto your kids. So I think it's easy to slide into it as a manager too.
Yeah, and I think, Shante, I'll get right to you. I think from my perspective, when we think about Kyle's question, to me it stems from the beginning. So sometimes when we hire, we go, okay, here's a resume. Oh, it looks really good. You're hired. We didn't ask those questions. We didn't hire for talent. And now we have somebody who's incompetent in the position, and now we got to fix them because we're the ones that hired them, because we're the ones that didn't hire for talent in the first place. So I think we mess up. Now, again, we're not going to be perfect in hiring for talent, but we need to be much better at it. And I think rather than fixing people all the time, hire the right people to begin with, and then we don't have to fix them. What we can do is, help them. So Shante.
Oh, I was going to say the exact same thing.
Oh,
it comes
sorry.
back to us. It starts with us. We made the wrong hiring decision altogether, or we put them in the wrong position from the beginning, and it's just a hard pill to swallow. We don't want to admit that that's what we did. So we'd rather put the responsibility on them than take the responsibility ourselves and correct the problem and move them maybe somewhere different.
So to me, it's kind of a lack of two things. It's either you're too lazy to do it right in the beginning, or you're inexperienced in how to hire. You haven't been trained on hiring for the right talent and so forth. So I think that's really, we've got to learn this piece. We've got to learn it. Kyle?
Yeah, I just want to say, in this whole talent thing, there are people that are very naturally talented at things, and they can seemingly just slide right into doing those behaviors and jobs, tasks, whatever, very well. Is there a point when hard work trumps talent, or is, like Ashley says, keep trying, you'll eventually get there, sort of thing? Is there a place for that? I actually think there is. Just in my own little notes, I'm reminded of Steve Vai, one of the guitar gods out there, who started off playing guitar wrong many times. He had to go back and correct his technique, and he had to work way harder than most other guitar gods to get to where he got. Was that really due to a lack of talent and it was just hard work? Or what is really going on there? Anyway, the thought is, does hard work trump talent? And is there a place for hard work and overcoming challenges and perhaps finding a talent? What do y'all think?
And is that tenacity in itself a talent? You know what I mean? Like, does he have a talent for tenacity and to keep going? Where maybe some people are easier, it's easier to say, oh, well, this isn't working, so I'm just going to jump over here. You know what I mean? They're adaptable. Maybe it's something like that.
Yeah, I like
I
that.
love what you're saying, Ashley, because talent is the little things. It's all, it's remember, it's a behavior pattern. Steve Vai could not let the guitar down. He was doing it wrong. And then he had to change. He had to pivot and try a different technique, move his hands a different way. I could sit down and kind of go over that myself, but I love the idea that being tenacious is a talent. And if it's in our thoughts and our patterns and we have a passion for something, I think eventually we do find a talent. The point here, I think, is talents also require a lot of hard work. And they are things we are improving at and polishing and whatnot, but we gravitate to them. I think that gravitating to something in itself is part of the talent. So love what you just said.
And I think that, discovering, the hard work of discovering your talent is part of that, I mean, and it takes work to do that. Maddie?
Me and Bree were actually talking about this a lot this week. We know we want to bring someone on in July or August on our team. And so we were trying to plan ahead on who we're bringing on instead of just putting up a job ad and see what happens and see who comes through. So we had everyone on our team take the Gallup Strengths Finder because we had enough codes between my books and Bree's books that we got for this class. And we found out 3 of the 5 of us have the exact same top 5 strengths. And so we decided when we're hiring, we want to find someone with different strengths to have a little bit more diverse of a team, because we're running into, it's amazing that we all have these same strengths, but we're probably lacking something on our team. We don't even know we're lacking at the moment because we haven't seen what another person can bring. So we'll see how this goes and we'll report back in August, but that's kind of our game plan right now as far as hiring for strengths.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I think, and we're going to talk about the homework piece, which will fit into the strengths based assessment. So thanks for sharing that. It's really good. And if you don't know, it's really hard to make those judgments. Now that you know, how much easier is it to say, okay, this is what we're going to hire for. This is the talents we're going to hire for. So Shane?
Something that made my day yesterday that was super cool is I love when you give a sales reps or give somebody a new tool, something new to use that they haven't used before. So last week we spent the week with our team putting together kind of a new sales process, and really it's not new, but it's something just built around preparation and documentation, right? Just preparing for your calls. And there's a step in there, which the beginning step is called an opening guide. And really all it is creating a wrap statement, right? A reason, an agenda, and a payoff for going and meeting with those clients. But the idea is before that, before you even go out to this cold call, before you even go out and call on this customer, you sit down and you think about what you want to talk about. You think about what you want to accomplish and what you want to do, and you put an achievable goal in there. It's busy work, don't get me wrong. It is time consuming to put these opening guides together, but if you use them, they work. And the reason why I was so excited about this, yesterday, Jason gave me a call and he said, I'm not going to lie, I thought these opening guides were stupid. I thought that it was very entry level, but you know what? I did it. I gave it a shot and I put 3 of them together. And he said he went into these meetings and he was more confident than he had been before. He was prepared and he walked out of all 3 of those cold calls, reaching his goal and getting the exact information he was looking for, and he got needs audits out of it. And so it was so cool. So I mean, did the tool work for him? Yes. Was it necessary? He was doing great before, but he saw a new way of doing things, and it opened his eyes to say, wow, I could really adapt and change and do something that could work better for me. It was just a really cool example of how when people just think of doing new things and they try new things, how it can work for them.
Well, sometimes trying new things help, again, as Kyle mentioned earlier, helps to unveil a talent that you may not have thought you had. So I think that those are very important when we think about, these talents. So again, as coaches, as managers, are you uncovering these talents in your people and these strengths? What are you doing to make that happen? Just to finish off this piece, but it does mean that great managers are aggressive in trying to identify each person's talents and to help him or her cultivate those talents. Okay. So it is our job to identify and then help them cultivate those talents. This is how they do it. They believe that casting is everything. They manage by exception, and they spend most of their time with their best people, as Joe mentioned. So it is in this chapter that we talk about, working with the best. So casting. What is casting? Who knows what casting is? Any ideas?
Well, my first impression always goes to Disneyland here,
Exactly.
where they don't call them team members, they call them cast members, right? It says because they're putting on a production. But I do think that if you have a role in terms of looking for the right team member, if you can think of it through the terms of casting, right? Who is, just like Maddie was talking about, who is the right person for that role? How does that balance out the team? How does it complement or enhance the team? It is, a whole different way to look at who it is that you're bringing into your organization and complementing, but at the same time, making sure that you're getting individuals who have, experience getting the outcomes that you're looking for.
Yeah. Or the talent and strengths to get the outcome you're looking for. So everyone has a talent. Remember this is we talk about this before. Recurring patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior that can be applied productively. Simply put, everyone can probably do at least one thing better than 10,000 other people. What's the one thing you can do better than probably 10,000 other people? Have you thought about that? What's the one thing that you can do better than probably 10,000 other people? Some of you are going to go, nothing. I don't think I can do anything better than 10,000 people. That's a lot of people. No, you have recurring patterns of thought and feeling and behavior that can be applied productively, and that you have this talent. If you want to turn talent into performance, you have to position each person so that you are paying her to do what she is naturally wired to do. You have to cast her in the right role. So when you're thinking about hiring or you've now been handed a group of people that you didn't hire, how do you cast them in the right role? Before we get into any other questions, I'm just trying to look here. Okay. So how do we cast people in the right role? What do you do personally to cast people in the right role? What are some things you do?
I think a big part of this is like actually just listening to people and genuinely listening to people when they tell you what they're interested in and things that they want to try and things that they notice about other team members, not listening to respond, but listening to really hear them and what they're interested in. I think that shows a lot. So I think that's listening.
Yeah, listening. Gosh. Yeah, listening is fantastic. So we have one mouth and two ears. We should use our ears more than our mouth, probably. But using our mouth is very important when we ask fantastic questions, and then we listen, twice as hard because we got these two things on the side of our head. Kyle?
Just regarding a little bit of what Mariah just started to say there. I really love what's said on page 162. The best manager, let me back up. Some managers quickly split the team into members of two groups, losers and keepers. They keep the keepers, clear house of losers, and recruit their own people to fill the gaps. Very typical. We've seen this. We've all seen that, right? The best managers are more deliberate. I love this paragraph. They talk with each individual, asking about strengths, weaknesses, goals, and dreams. I mean, they're really digging in here. They work closely with each employee, taking note of choices each makes, the way they all interact and who supports who and why. They notice things. They take their time because they know that the surest way to identify each person's talents is to watch his or her behavior over time.
That
And,
sounds like me on the park bench and watching people.
Yeah, and I just think there's so much more of a care to a manager that's willing to have that type of rigor in really discovering what people are made of. I think a lot of times we're blinded by company objectives, like, and that's where the square peg round hole comes in. It's like the company needs to do this, so let's hurry and get people to do it. And so we just kind of shove them into the roles. And this kind of flips that. You got to look at the people while considering what company needs too, right? But we've really got to care, really dig in, and understand the people that are getting things done so that we can properly attempt to get those things done for the company. I just think that is just amazing. And I think we oftentimes take the shortcut and say, well, the company needs this, everybody just go to work and go get it done, right? So
Very good. That's good. On the page that says casting is everything, if you've got your book, it says casting is everything. Does everybody have their book in front of them? Right at the very bottom, it says in the working world, casting becomes a little more challenging. Okay. So everybody have their book to find that page where it says casting is everything. Got it? Does it say at the very bottom, in the working world, casting becomes a little more challenging? Okay. Ashley, will you read it says first. Just read that first sentence. It says first. And then
Ashley Libro, Ashley Hossein.
Oh, sorry, Ashley Hossein. Sorry.
First, what matters is what is inside the person, not physical prowess or appearance. Some managers find it hard to see beyond the physical to each person's true talents.
Right. So again, this is how we cast. What matters is what's inside the person, not the physical appearance or prowess. It's just important when we think about people, we sometimes judge too quickly by this outward appearance, by the cover of the book, right? We're not reading the inside. We're not digging on the inside. Maddie, will you read? I'll tell you when to stop, but will you read the second?
Second, managers are often preoccupied with the person's skills or knowledge. Thus, people with marketing degrees are inevitably cast into marketing department, and people with accounting backgrounds are siphoned off into the finance department. There is nothing wrong with including a person's skills and knowledge on your casting checklist. But if you do not place a person's talent at the top of that list, you will always run into the risk of mediocre performance.
Yeah. How powerful is that? How powerful is that? It just gave you the two top things that you should be doing when we're hiring for talent, and how to cast people when we're talking about, casting. So casting for talent is one of the unwritten secrets to a success of great managers. How many of you want to be successful as a great manager and coach? I hope all of you. Yeah. And so if we're going to do that, it just gave us the answers. We have the answers on how to do this. So we want to look at experience. Sometimes that's kind of the opening thing. And Kyle, you can chime in on this, but as we're looking at resumes and stuff like that, that's just kind of an opening thing. So if I get a resume for somebody, I've put a job out there and I get a resume and it shows some experience. So that opens the door for me to have a discussion. It doesn't mean, gosh, well, you've got this experience, so I got to hire you. That just opens the door. So Shantae, did you have a comment on that?
I was just gonna say, in trades, like, we take it a little step further and we do a Rembrandt personality assessment. And that's a tool that we use also to dig a little bit deeper and see if someone else analyzes this person in the same way that we do, and that if they get the same perception of their talents as we do during the interview process. And that can either confirm or make us realize that maybe our assessment wasn't correct of what their actual talents are, and then decide whether that's someone we want to cast for the role or
Yeah.
not.
Well, and too often, again, whether it's not experienced or trained in the being able to interview properly and ask the right questions for talent and strengths, we just keep going down the experience and skill thing, and we're so wrapped up into that in this society that's all it's about. Well, what kind of experience do you have? What kind of experience? Let me talk about your strengths and weaknesses. Well, not strengths like we're talking about. Is give me some of your strengths and weaknesses, which strengths usually mean, hey, I'm really good at Excel. No, that's not a strength. It could be, but it's not a strength. It's usually an experience or a skill that you learned. Okay. So these are things we've got to learn to get over some of this, just this typical standard stuff. And we start digging into a little bit deeper. So
Yeah, if I
Go-
could chime in a little bit.
yes, Kyle.
The resume is not meant to is not a hiring tool. A resume gets you an interview. That's as far as the resume goes. It gets you an interview, and then all the real stuff should happen at that point, right? All the deeper questions. I've never looked at a resume and thought, I've got to hire this person. I've oftentimes looked at resumes and thought, I want to dig in deeper on this or that. So the resume really gets the interview. Now beyond that, it's how well do we, what's the rigor we use to make selections at that point. So
I do think, Kyle, that I've said many times, I've seen this resume, I want to talk with this person, right? And I think that's the key is I want to talk with this person. This sounds really good. But then you start talking with the person and find out it's not so good. Or maybe it's
oftentimes.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes,
I
Shane.
have a bit of an interesting take on resumes. I'm not a huge fan of resumes. And so what I do is, so here's a good example, right? Like Maddie. was helping us find a rep in Georgia. And when I get a resume from someone like Maddie, first things first, I'm going to trust that she's already vetted that person, right? I'm going to trust that the person that she's sending me is a potentially good candidate. So when I get that resume, I don't look at it before I talk to the employee. I don't look at it before I talk to the candidate. I actually will talk to the candidate and do just a simple kind of personality interview with them and just talk to them as a normal human being versus a job interview, just to get to know them. It doesn't mean that after I talk to them, I won't open the resume and take a look at it. But I personally get this jaded, not experience, but kind of feeling about an individual when I look at their resume first, because I feel like it's going to guide me into asking certain questions when I first would rather just get to know them and their personality. And then after that, as a second or third interview, I'll look at the resume and talk to them.
Yeah. Which again, I think that's, we can't just base everything on the resume when we're casting. So think about casting. Think about auditioning for a play or a movie or something like that. That's casting. And these people, it talked about the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and how Paul Newman and Robert Redford had the opposite roles until they started doing some readings and stuff, and then they cast them in the roles that they actually took, and it made the movie so much better when they did that. So casting is important. Just to finish up this, and then I want to do a little game here that we're going to play. She knows that it is a rare thing to be able to find a role that gives you a chance to express the specialness inside of you. Do you guys feel like you have specialness inside of you? Everybody should go like this. Okay. A role where what makes you, you is also what makes you good. It is rare, not because there aren't enough interesting roles. Virtually every role performed at excellence has the potential to interest somebody, but because so few individuals ever come to know their true talent and so many managers fail to notice the clues. Isn't that an important statement? Most of us don't recognize our talent, and most managers fail to notice those clues. Everyone has the talent to be exceptional at something. The trick for us is to find that something. The trick is casting. Okay. So how do we do the casting? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little role play. And I kept thinking of different people that we're going to ask to do this, just to kind of have a little bit of fun with it. And some of the people, are sick today and so forth. But I did have a couple in mind, and they're actually sitting next to each other. It's Ashley and Mariah. I want to see if you guys will do a little role play. So you got to turn your mic on. Now it says, how do you do this? But the best managers have a solution. So if you go to Manage by Exception, go to the second page, and right down towards it's like the second to the last paragraph, it says, but the best managers have the solution. Can you see that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
What do we do? What's the best managers do?
they ask.
They ask. So ask your employees questions. So this next two paragraphs gives you some questions, Ashley, and you're going to ask Mariah questions to dig into finding out what her talents and strengths are. Now, Mariah, I don't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, I got to tell everybody in front of everybody. So you can make stuff up if you want to. Okay. You don't have to be, share your personal life with the whole team here, but this is a role play. What my goal is to say, how do you go about doing this with somebody? How do you find out about their talents? So you're welcome to share your real talents, or you're welcome to make up some talents as part of the role play. Okay. It's not meant to put you on the spot and have you share everything about you. So Ashley, you are in a one-to-one with Mariah, because Mariah is reporting to you, and you're going to find out a little bit more about Mariah.
Okay. Asking these questions, right, that are listed in the book.
Yeah.
It's hot in here.
Don't pass out on us, okay?
Oh, man. What are you shooting for in your current role?
In my current role, I am shooting, I guess, to develop the team and to make everything, I want everybody to kind of move as a really cohesive, like well-oiled machine. So I want the person up front to kind of be well-oiled with the recruiters to be well-oiled with me, and to loop back around to the recruiting assistant. So that's kind of what I'm shooting for in my current role.
Awesome. All right. Where do you see your career heading?
Funny, if you asked me that question a couple months ago, I probably definitely would have said sales. But now that I'm in more of like manager role, honestly, in 5 years, I don't really see like a ton different with like my position necessarily. Maybe like being more advanced in my position, but I'm not really looking to move to like a next rung or anything like that. I kind of like where I'm at.
Awesome. What personal goal would you feel comfortable sharing with me?
I want to own a house in 5 years. So that's my personal goal. I want to own a house by the time I'm like 25, 26. So.
Okay. How often do you want to meet to talk about your household owning process?
Quarterly.
I like it. Do you want me to keep going with the other questions?
I kind of like this actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Do a couple more.
Okay. Do you like public or private recognition?
Probably public. Yeah.
Okay. Do you like it written or verbal?
I like it verbal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Who is your best audience?
Probably my family. There's like something different about, I don't know, just succeeding and accomplishments with like family that really just warms my heart. So
Nice.
ooh, I feel like
So-
I know you all so well now. You all know me so well. Who wants to go next?
So now we know all about Mariah, but we don't know if we know all about Mariah. Some of that could be true and some of it may not be true. That's her business, and that's Ashley's job to work with her on that. But thank you, you guys. That was good. So Ashley, what did you learn about Mariah in the process?
So I for sure didn't know she was looking to own a house. That's great. And I'm happy to learn that she's happy in her current role and that her goals for the team are the same as my goals for the team. That was
So
fantastic.
so you know, we could kind of maybe put her into the hero's path, not necessarily the coach's path, but there's a coach path there, but in a hero's path. So because she mentioned, you know, and I don't know if she mentioned that because of our past discussions, I don't want to necessarily climb the rung or whatever, the next rung. But that's really good. So what about talents? Are you learning anything about her strengths and talents when you talk to her?
I think what I would learn the most is that the talent she has is seeing people and being able to see people and where they're most effective. So being able to see that it matters to go from the recruiting assistant to the recruiters back to the operations supervisor and around. I think that that's a big talent, being able to see people and help them see each other kind of thing.
Does she like pats on the back?
Yes.
And she likes to be recognized in front of people.
Yes.
And those are important things to know. Why?
So that way she's getting the recognition the way she receives it instead of just necessarily the way I give it kind of deal.
Yeah. Because it's not about, in this situation, it's not about you, it's about her, right?
Right.
So all of us have this opportunity to do this same thing. When we do one-on-ones, we should be asking questions like this, asking about talents, and when we learn about talents and strengths, how do we take those now and bring the very best out? If Mariah is this people person and she loves to see people succeed in what she's doing and those sorts of things, how can we bring the best of that out? How do we give her roles and opportunities to do just that in the role that she's currently in, so that she finds tremendous success in doing what she does best every day? Right? So learning and asking these questions. Kyle, did you have anything else that you want to share on that subject, or any other questions that you had?
I just like to highlight the difference between the golden rule and what's called the platinum rule.
Yeah.
It doesn't come out in the book as the platinum rule, but it's definitely said here. You know, the golden rule would be do unto others as you would, you know, have you do unto others as you treat others the way you want to be treated, right?
Yeah.
But it kind of points out that everyone has their own little psychological oxygen, which is very different. And so this really challenges us to get to know our people as individuals, the very different, and how different we really are, how different we like to receive information, receive praise. And the platinum rules, do unto others as they would have you do unto them. So if we reword that, it switches who the important person is here. And I just think we've got to have that rigor to learn about each person's individual needs. And there's a lot of ways to go about that. But I like to make profiles. In fact, when I was on site at IntegraCore, I made profiles on all the supervisors, what their likes and dislikes were, and it really helped me build relationships of trust with them. But that is very important, I think, is to really get to know your people. But I think that all starts. It can't be a mechanical process. It really has to be a sincere care for people. They will catch on to that if this is just well, the book said this, so I'm going to go do that. we must find it in ourselves as managers to truly care about our people and to go about this very naturally and have the desire to learn about our people.
Yeah, and again, treating others as they would like to be treated according to their, again, strengths and talents. So, you know, Ashley, you guys, Mariah, you did a wonderful job. Mariah, thank you so much for doing that and being able to step out into the deal. Now, I know that Mariah likes verbal pats on the back, and I can give that to her. So again, you guys, it's just really important. And she, you know, she lights up. Did you see her light up, you guys? She got this beautiful smile. Did you see her just light right up? Oh, hey, thank you. This is what we want our people to do. We want them to light up when we talk about their talents and strengths, or when they talk about their talents and strengths, and when they discover them. Gosh, when transformation, you guys, help your people discover their talents and strengths, discover your own, and help others discover theirs, and then really, really design the outcomes, the plays, the Dennis Rodman, so to speak, of what we're doing around that person's abilities and talents and strengths. It'll make so much difference. Productivity will go through the roof when we do that. You know, there was a statement that Ted has made a long time ago, and I can't remember if it's part of our documents or not, but it pretty much goes like this: if we get the people thing right, everything else will follow. That's what this is based on. That's why we're doing this. If we just get the people thing right, everything else will follow. And that holds true with this whole discussion that we've had today. So we've had an opportunity to study about hiring for talent. We've had an opportunity to talk a little bit about outcomes and expectations, which hopefully you've taken some time, and we will discuss that coming up. But I wanted to really spend the time in this chapter. But so be prepared. Outcomes and expectations. Have you got those? You know, for your people. And now we've talked about not hiring, but we've talked about focusing on strengths. Gosh, the next one is talking about being a right fit. So once we understand talents and strengths, we can then really fit people into the right, you know, positions. If we've, you know, made a mistake, or if you've been handed a group of people and we need to look at right fit. So that next chapter, chapter 6, we talk about, you know, find the right fit. But we've got to understand the talents and strengths in order to make any of this happen. So any other last comments or questions before we close up? I did record the call today. Are you guys proud of me? Ashley didn't have to remind me. So if you haven't watched, for those that are not going to be on today, or if you want to go back and listen to it again, I would highly recommend you either listen to this or go back and reread the chapter. I just love this chapter. So make sure we get it right. All right. Happy Friday to everybody. Thank you for being on the call. Have a great weekend. We'll see you at 2:00 Utah time for our company-wide meeting. Thanks, you guys. Take care.
See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.